Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the season 3 finale of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The episode was called New Life and New Civilizations. And as it starts, at a farewell party for Captain Batel, it's revealed that Dr. Corby is on a distant planet called Skygowan, following a lead he hopes will help him understand what happened with the evil aliens on Vadia 9 a number of episodes back. Simultaneously, as maintenance diagnostics are being run ship-wide, it is learned that Ensign Gamble, the young medical ensign who lost his eyes on Vadia 9, has been reconstituted by the sickbay transporter and beamed himself off the ship, as well as that using an interdimensional ley line, he was able to get halfway across the quadrant, as well as that he is seen as a god by the people of the distant planet and could do it again to get back to Vadia 9 to free the demons that are there. So Enterprise goes to Skygowan, and a party consisting of La'an, Una, Dr. M'Benga, Chapel, and Uhura beam down, leading to the discovery of a transporter-type device that somehow has a story about Dr. M'Benga inscribed on it. And this device opens upon scanning the Doctor before he's taken into it by Gamble, who blasts the other crew members back to keep them from stopping him from taking the Doctor, who next finds himself with Gamble back on Vadia 9, where Gamble activated something that affects Batel's eyes temporarily all that distance away, making them look like space. And it turns out that she has somehow become the living version of the statue back on Vadia 9, and through some really wacky reasoning, it's determined that she has some kind of genetic knowledge on how to fight the demon things, and that she is destined to be the guardian against the demons, because they are evil itself, and that she would have to stay on Vadia 9 to accomplish that task. Batel and Pike then learn that they need to open the same portal that the Doctor went through, so Enterprise and Farragut simultaneously fire phasers at it after James T. Kirk of the Farragut and Spock join minds and are able to do so in exact synchronicity across distance. Batel then confronts Gamble, and somehow we get a scene of she and Pike at his cabin where it's after the confrontation and they're celebrating 2 years of marriage for a moment before it's years later and Pike's accident is 2 months away, before the vision changes again and we see that months later his accident never occurred, before another jump happens and Pike's now grown daughter is engaged to Admiral April's son, before another jump happens to maybe a decade later and Batel is dying, at which point the vision ends and Batel, as the beholder, as she so calls herself, easily defeats Gamble. In the aftermath, Corby tells Chapel he'll be staying on Skygowan to study things there. After Kirk beats Spock at chess, Spock goes off with La'an for more dance lessons, and Sam Kirk takes Spock's place at the table with Jim. Pike tells Una he's not ready to talk about losing Batel before making a log entry about love and loss, after which Enterprise heads off to an uncharted M-class planet that Corby's research just discovered. And that's where the episode and the season ended. So I did like this episode. I thought it was a straight-up, straightforward episode of Star Trek. I didn't think it was any great shakes. I don't think they reinvented the wheel, but it was a solid episode of Star Trek. There was no dumb in it. Well, for the most part, there was no dumb in it. And the characters all acted like they're supposed to act, like officers in a military-type organization, like officers in a professional organization with a hierarchy. They acted normally and did normal things for that setting, and I just like it when that happens. I don't like it so much when they start showing the characters behave in ways that don't comport with that, which they seem to do a lot on this show. I thought all the visuals were great. We got to see a bunch of different aliens. That was awesome. And I really liked the sort of flash forward sequence that Pike experienced because, you know, he's losing her, but at the same time, he kind of got to live through his life with her, a la the Inner Light type of thing. So I thought that was very cool for him. And I thought it was cool to see what their future might have been like. And I like the fact that the years jumped forward in the vision at least a couple of times when there was a knock at the door. There was a repeated knock at the door moment in each of the little vignettes, and that was sort of when the thing changed a couple of times anyway. I thought that was really good. A good, use of a device to, move a plot forward, move a scene forward. There was a curious reference early in the episode to Doctor Who again, it seems, because there was a TARDIS visible in the background in one of the recent episodes as well. If you zoom really in, you can see a TARDIS. And so in this episode, Pelia says, "That reminds me of a time when I spent a little while with the time traveling doctor," seemingly referencing the Doctor from Doctor Who, which was pretty cool, actually. That was a bad impression of her, wasn't it? Anyway, so there was that little reference to Doctor Who, which was cool. And, overall, I think it was a nice wrap up to the season. It ended on a positive note, not on a cliffhanger like last season, or for that matter, the season before. And I thought that was refreshing. There was some emotion to it with Pike having to lose Patel and having to experience that sort of vision of his life in his head where she dies of sort of older age, not old age really, I guess. And, I like that they incorporated elements from past episodes where stuff we saw before with those demons didn't just get left hanging, especially because they ended that episode with the computer glitching out, the Enterprise computer glitching out, and they paid it off, by continuing with the story and sort of bringing it to a conclusion. That said, I want to say that I think they did it a little too quickly. She defeats him very quickly in the end, and I thought that was a little cheap. Also, I didn't quite understand how it is that she became this guardian or whatever, or this beholder that she says, how she became a living version of the statue in that structure. Because the explanation they give for it as well, when you introduced the Goran DNA into my system and the changing elements, it made me become the guardian of Verada 9. Like, why? Why would it make you that? Of all things it could possibly make you. And she also had, what is it, Illyrian blood, but they don't mention that. But like the idea being that she went through a sort of metamorphosis because of those events. And out of the million different things she could have become, she becomes the guardian of this statue on Verada 9. Is that because the other guy was on the ship at the time that she was going through that stuff? They don't really explain it. So I thought that was a little wonky. I also have some other little nitpicks, like why were there so many members on the landing party? Like, okay, you might want Uhura because she's, the language expert and whatnot, and you might need her to translate something, in this volatile situation between these demon creatures and whatnot. So, and she was there when the original events took place, so that's fine, and she was helpful there. So, okay, it makes sense to have her. It makes sense to have either Dr. Mbenga or Chapel because you need a medical personnel. That makes sense. But I don't think you need both of them. And I think of the two, Dr. Mbenga makes the most sense because, as he puts it, he's the one that led Gamble there, authorized him to go on the mission or had him come along on the mission. So that made sense because they had a connection. So, but why do you need Chapel there? Okay, she was on Varda 9 too, but you're going to bring down everybody on the ship? Leave some people behind. And if you are bringing her, why did you bring Una? She's the first officer and you sent her to lead the team. Okay, but you had the chief of security there as well, so she could have led the team. So I don't know. It seemed like they took too many people on the away team. And it seemed like they did it just to give all the characters something to do. So I thought it was a little weird. In addition to not understanding how it is that she became that specific thing, I didn't understand some of the wacky travel mechanics that they came up with. Well, there's a ley line. It's an interdimensional ley line. And so this particular guy was able to take advantage of it because the species that sort of took him over were interdimensional sort of beings or beings that manipulated interdimensional space. And so that's how he was able to do it. And okay. And why did the transporter reconstitute him? It just was kind of weird. So I don't know. I don't know that all of that made sense. The other thing I want to know too is why did they involve Jim Kirk again? If there are 10 episodes this season, I swear he's been in 6 of them. And I think that's a little much. Maybe it's only been 5. I still think that's a little much. There was no need for that. And you might think, oh, well, they needed the Farragut to do the thing. No, they didn't. They just wrote it that they needed it. They could have written it that they didn't need it. They could have wrote it so that they were able to do the thing without the other shit. They only wrote that part because they wanted to include him, and they had already decided to do that. Do you understand? So it's the reverse. So I don't understand why they keep having to bring him in. I think, again, it's one of those things that cheapens the show. It's supposed to be the pre-Kirk era. Let it be what it was without his constant involvement, or what it should be. Also, I understand a mind meld and all that stuff, but what they were doing was more like a psychic link. So they melded minds and they shared each other's thoughts and everything. And so that usually works in proximity, not separated. You'll retain memories afterwards, whether you're near them or not, but you won't be in sync when you're separated. At least I don't see how that happens. Sometimes when they showed the mind melds, you'd see like in Star Trek 3, Sarek and Kirk are talking at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it was a different scene, but I'm trying to remember. There was a scene of a mind meld at one point where the people doing the meld seemed to be speaking in sync or acting out a memory sort of as if they're both there at the same time, even though only one of them actually was. And so I get that kind of thing, but that's when they're right next to each other. This was separated between the distance of, from one ship to the next. So I wasn't buying that. But, otherwise, I thought it was a good episode. There was good action. The visuals were amazing. We got to see new aliens. They wrapped up the story of the demons that they had started a few episodes back. They, had a good sort of emotional segment for Captain Pike, which I thought was, moving, and it had emotional weight. And so I thought that was good. And like I said, nobody acted like an idiot. Nobody acted, contrary to how characters should act if they're in a professional organization like Starfleet. They acted within those parameters. Spock acted like Spock, thank goodness. And I just thought it was a good episode, a 6 or 7 out of 10. But for now, that's really it. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.